of all, on to you. Just want to understand to whom I'm talking, from where you belong. I see that you are from IIM. So probably we can start from the college days so that people watching still in college can understand and to the current venture you are doing. How? Over to
Sure.
you.
So I come from a tier four town, I would say, in MP. That's called
Mm-hmm.
Khajuraho.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I come from Khajuraho.
Khajuraho.
I did my initial schooling in Kota. Not schooling, but after my tenth, doing my tenth in Khajuraho, I went to Kota,
Mm-hmm.
prepared for IIT. Couldn't get into IIT. The best thing I could get into was an IT. So I did my graduation from IIT Surathkal. Um, and later on did my MBA from IIM Calcutta. So after passing out from Surathkal, I had multiple job offers, and for some reason, I mean that's a very laughable reason. But what happened is that one of the job roles was Coal India Limited, which was asking me to be posted somewhere around Ranchi. The
Mm-hmm.
second one was Bangalore. That there was a startup. They are not a startup anymore. They're a very prominent SaaS company now, Capillary Technologies. They had just started around 2012, and they were giving me a role in Bangalore. And I wanted to be close to my friends because all of my friends are moving to Bangalore. So I fought with my parents, who wanted me to join Coal India, and because as you can imagine, in India, especially in North India, joining a very reliable sarkari naukri is
Mm-hmm.
what every parent aspires for their kids.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy who did not want to join a sarkari naukri just because he wanted to be with his friends. So I fought with them and joined Capillary in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but that I would say was a blessing in disguise for me because I got to work very closely with the founders. They were one of the earlier Indian companies along with Flipkart. At least I can say that in B2B, which with the startup scene in India was still in a very nascent stage. So got to work with the Rockstar team, especially got to work very closely with the founders, and that gave me a confidence that, and that got me interested in startup. That got me interested into starting my own company. In then in 2014, I quit Capillary and started my own venture, right? And this company was called Efficient Technologies. This was a B2B enterprise mobility platform as a service. And Efficient was funded by, still even 2014 was not a time when the startup space has kind of exploded in India. It's still,
Correct.
we in particular was not very hot at that time. But we
Mm-hmm.
managed to raise funds from some of the prominent individual investors. Also got some recognitions from NASCOM, from Entrepreneur India. I ran Efficient for close to 2 years, 2.5 years rather. Unfortunately, could not scale it as much as I wanted. But even with Efficient, we had acquired very prominent customers: Dalmia Cements, Hindalco, Axis Bank. So we reached a certain scale, but unfortunately couldn't really take it where I wanted to. Uh, and post that, I worked with Swiggy for a brief time, and post that I started Education 10x, and this is where we are. So started Education 10x along with my friends Bhavish and Prasanna, whom I have known for a long time. And the idea was that because I was very active in financial markets, and I always used to wonder when why is that kids are not exposed to all these things from a very earlier age, right? I
Correct.
mean, and especially at that time, I saw that during COVID, kids are learning coding, kids are learning music, kids are essentially learning everything online, and some of the things which were not part of conventional wisdom, in the sense that they were not supposed to be taught to the kids,
Correct.
right? I mean, with coding, you hadn't heard kids being taught coding,
Mm.
or some AI courses, kids not being exposed to. Then I thought, okay, kids are doing all these courses and parents are seeing value in it, and at the same time, there is a certain interest which is coming from the parents. Now, there is a very critical piece which a lot of people in the past have tried their hands on, and a lot of people believe that kids should know about how to handle their finances. There should be an effort from societies and to make them financially smarter,
Mm.
but no one has really delved deeper into it. And why is that? And that's when we started, you know peeling off the problem a bit more. Why is that kids are not being exposed to financial literacy? did a market research for close to a year, and then launched Education 10x. And it's been more than 2 years. We have been going strong. We are currently operating in more than 30 countries,
Hmm.
and with, being part of the platform.
Paid one?
Yeah,
Are they paid one?
they are paid ones. They are
Paid
paid
one.
ones. They are paid
Okay.
ones across the globe.
Okay.
And we have more. The great satisfaction has been that we have been able to give a meaningful source of employment to all these
Hmm.
teachers
Hmm.
who always wanted to come into the mainstream workforce, but
Hmm.
somehow because of their family commitments, other things, they could not leave their homes. So that has been a very satisfying outcome.
Hmm.
So yeah, we have been going strong for and we are continuously growing. For the past 3-4 months, we are focusing on the US market primarily,
Hmm.
and that is what I am in UK for, to develop UK and US markets. Yeah, and between while we are raising funds, we got interest from one of the bigger edtech players in the world, which is Bright Champs. They wanted to acquire a majority stake, and we thought, okay, rather than building it individually, let's combine our forces
Hmm.
and build it along with Bright Champs. So yeah, so technically Bright Champs acquired us in December last year.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the
Uh,
journey has been.
So I am a little bit more interested to talk about on three parts of your journey. So first is once you graduated from IM, that's a first
Yeah.
segment of audience which would be interested how the mindset of a particular person should be or probably is. The second stage, once you started your second company and you quit about going ahead with that. And third is what we are doing. So just my specific question would be after the college, like let's say a guy who is graduating, or probably not from the prominent tech colleges or probably IITs or I'm talking about somebody who is literally just got graduated. What is the scope in India? Do you feel like if I talk about specifically in India, do you see the potential market for students or let's say people coming out from the college is gonna be for next 5 years in terms of startup and in terms of building a new products and to the society. How do you see that?
No, okay, that's a great question. I'll answer it from two perspectives. One is, if you want to be an employee or if you want to learn working in a particular company,
Hmm.
I think there is a lot of talk about being a lack of job opportunities and a lot of other things. We hire continuously, and even today morning I got done with a meeting where I was not very happy with the pace of hiring. Right? I
Hmm.
mean, the mandate to the team was that this week by now 10 folks should have been hired for various markets, but it had not happened because of the vacations. I can understand that. The
Hmm.
point I'm trying to make is there is the kind of India is a growing economy, and you cannot. I mean, you can grow only on the back of the people, as you grow, you will take a lot of people along with you, and
Correct.
which also means that there are a huge number of opportunities which are existing in India, but at the same time people have to grab those opportunities. There are a certain skill sets which are required. I mean it and that happens at every at various stages. During our evaluation, what has happened is that there is a certain skill set which is required at a certain time, right? So
Correct.
so if you look at coding is kind of in demand these days. So and similarly there are certain skills. If you have those skills and if you have an appetite to work and learn, then there is nothing that can stop you. There are a huge number of opportunities, and I can tell you companies struggle to find people who can be a right fit.
Correct.
So my suggestion to everyone looking out for job is to not get disheartened that there are no opportunities. There are people who are looking to onboard people, and there are huge number of opportunities which are out there. It's just that you have to ensure that. But what will happen? 80% of the opportunities will cater to a certain skill set. You have to ensure that you are carrying that particular skill set.
Correct. Going to a specific market and having the specific skill set will help.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Let's say, for us, I mean, it doesn't matter where in India you are, but having a decent grab on your communication skills is important, right?
Correct.
So maybe while you're graduating or you're in school, you can focus on acquiring some of these skills, which are anyways going to be very essential as you grow in the corporate world.
Right, right. Now, the next question on the second stage, you started a first venture and going. My question is, in a way, वो कौन सा time होता है? What is that time that you feel okay? This is not something which I want to take it for longer time, and we need to quit. And how that decision is made? Because the second venture we talk about, let's say you started, you did for 2 years, and what exactly that moment and that feeling in terms of technical aspects is something that we can just figure out. Probably somebody might be in the stage that they are not doing well with their startups in a year or two. What that point you thought is something is not we are getting what we wanted to do with the company you started.
Uh, sorry, to understand your question, the education 10x when I started.
No, so the previous company which you are not part of right now.
Okay, so I mean, so what is happening is that what we figured out is that there was a clear lack of product market fit. So we had developed something, and there's a blog that I have written. It was also published by Calcutta later on my learnings from my first startup. Right. What we had realized, okay, what we have built is not something which the market needs, or at least what we figured out is that if you want to sell in India, this is not the product, or while the problem exists, but this is not the right product for that particular problem, right? And there was an option, okay, this is the right product for solving this problem in US, but the dynamics were completely different. Right. I mean, then you get into a different kind of a competition. And you need a lot of monetary power as well. So if we are kind of fixated that okay, this was built for India, and if and we have to keep trying in India. So the second option is this is not the product, then probably we have to figure out the product for India. And are we and do we have the appetite to kind of go back to the drawing board and rework on the entire problem statement?
Okay.
Right. And if we realize that okay, there's a huge opportunity cost which is involved, and during this period the market dynamics has also changed significantly, and also how much of the learning from our previous experience we can carry to kind of cater to this particular need in future. And that's when we realize that the opportunity cost is a bit too large for us to continue with this particular venture. And it's better to call it quits if we are not going to if we are not going to the US, if we have to keep trying in India, so it's better to call it quits, because there are other products which are better placed to solve for that particular problem.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a question. Is it something is personally related to founder interest after a period of time shutting down a startup? Is that something is also a part of this?
Founder, see, to be honest, the previous startup was not shut down. It was more of an acqui-hire, because the product was there and the product was absorbed by a particular company. But if you talk about founders' interest, and if I have understood the question correctly, founders should and I have seen many startups getting shut down, especially during COVID. Some of the startups which I founded, very close friends, and all of them felt that they should have shut it down long back, because because they kept on trying, because while back of the mind they knew that this is the problem which is not very easy to solve.
Okay.
Right? But they kept on trying, and once you have that thing in mind that probably this is not a problem easy to solve, and when you have decided that some point of time you are anyways going to shut it down, then it's better to shut it down then and there itself, because that will reflect on the larger team as well. The team also is kind of not very motivated to take it forward. They are also just scouting for other jobs, and they are passing time. But once that doubt has crept in, within the founders, the team might always be doubtful. I mean, you can't help about it. But once the founder feels that okay, this is the time probably to call it quits, and he is just dragging because he is not able to take the hard call, I think as soon as the doubt has crept in, you should take it much more seriously.
So is it like same way?
And what I mentioned, that almost every founder I've spoken with who have quit their ventures, they felt that they should have done it long back.
So, matlab, this is something that the way you get a desire to build something. Once you get a doubt of quitting something, we need to take it seriously as a founder, as a startup owner.
Yeah,
That's
because there's huge opportunity cost as well. You might work on a different problem, which can be a greater results.
correct, correct, correct. And talking about the third startup, which eventually I'll tell you why I'm more interested to know about that, because I recently visited to my sister's place, and my sister's son was like somewhere around 12, 13 years, but he said, I want to be rich. I said, okay, do you know how to manage money? He said, no. So I thought, like, if that particular person is going to have a very good idea about managing money from the age of 12 or 14, probably down the line for 8 years or 9 years, when he is having a lot many time to manage and make mistakes with respect to money, probably by 20 years he'll be very good enough, well versed with managing money, whatever source he is having. So I thought of making this something, but eventually I found Education 10x as a company, which is already solving a problem in this. To be very serious, it is a matter of a month ago. And I reached out directly to you that, okay, let's have a conversation. How this company is. So what is the idea behind how did you find this? Like, okay, this is something which probably we can work on. What was that instant? I would say. I would like to know the
Okay,
moment or the part.
before I answer that, I'll tell you. Right at the time we were starting, and even today, I get to hear so many of these stories that this particular kid checked this thing with me, or something of this sort.
Hmm,
So a lot of
hmm, hmm.
anecdotal evidences that we get, but I'll tell you how things are different now. So so there was obviously a Eureka moment for me when I thought, okay, this is something which seems to have potential, and that was from a particular investment that I had made, which worked. And I was
Hmm.
just thinking, what if I had invested? Because I started earning at the age of 20, and I had certain capital from that time itself. And I just took it back 8 to 10 years backwards. And I thought, if I had invested around 8 to 9 years back, and then I thought, why was I not exposed to these things probably at the age of 10?
Hmm.
Right. And
Hmm.
I also remembered my father asking me once or twice, probably when I was growing up, probably 13 or 14, that you should look into these things as well. You should try to
Correct.
understand how
Hmm.
various financial instruments work.
Hmm.
But it was not a very structured approach from his side. He just made it as a passing comment. And
Hmm.
as we all know, when you are growing up, probably when you are in your teens, you want to do things that interest you,
Correct.
right? You don't listen to your parents that often, until unless you have a serious interest in that.
Correct.
So when we were starting up, I thought, okay, so because we were not first time founders, so I had done a startup before, so I knew what the process should be. It was not like I was getting carried over
Hmm.
by my own set of ideas. So I knew what process we should be following. So so what we did was, we said, okay, now we have to talk to these many people, right? And we segmented we wanted to survey folks around what's really happening on the financial literacy front, how much they'll pay, and what are the kind of challenges they're looking at. Almost everyone we spoke with was kind of very excited,
Hmm.
right? And we did sampling with a very methodical approach, and spoke with a lot of parents in India, outside tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities. And first thing that we realized, okay, that almost everyone is interested, right? and
Okay.
and we also realized that a lot of people have tried exposing their kids to financial literacy
Hmm.
in some ways, right?
Hmm.
Either they have encouraged them to look at some YouTube videos, or they have sent their kids to some workshop which was happening during summer vacations. So all of them had tried something before. One of the things we also realized, that the current generation of parents that has kids, let's say between 8 to 14 years of age,
Hmm.
this was a generation which was kind of exposed to certain amount of wealth. If you look
Hmm.
at our father's generation, they never had that disposable income to kind of invest in certain financial instruments. I mean,
Correct.
if there is something in the savings bank account, that itself is a kind of a blessing, right? So now these guys realize that they could not invest their money properly,
Correct.
right? So there was an interest from the parent side as well.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it was a lot of people use that phrase with me, and I also relate to it. But that was more of a, it was more of a vitamin rather than painkiller sort of an approach, where it was a latent need, but not a very burning kind of a need itself.
Okay.
That you have to get it done somehow. Like
Hmm.
if you talk about communication skills and English, almost every parent would want their kids to learn English,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
To be able to talk in English, but
Correct.
uh, talk in English frequently. But that was not the case with financial literacy. It's
Correct.
okay if he is exposed to it, but it's not like
Hmm.
I'm losing sleep over it.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So and from my past experience, I had this thing that there is a difference between a desired reality and an objective reality. A
Okay.
desired reality is something which can be an ideal scenario.
Hmm.
Objective reality is something which you can prioritize to P1 or P0, and then you will pay for it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So the second step, when we understood that okay, there are parents who need it. The second step was to verify how much they will pay for it and whether they will pay for it or not.
Correct.
Right? You might need something, you might need something, but you would not pay for it.
Correct.
So that was the second thing that we did, and we said okay, let's and then there were again learnings from a previous startup, and we said okay, let's create a demo class which we'll expose to the kids, and through our own research we are very clear that the format it has to
Hmm.
be a live learning model with a
Hmm.
very gamified approach. So
Hmm.
we said okay, let's create a demo class and see, and we won't tell the parents that this is just a demo class, or there's a company which doesn't have any future modules built in.
Okay.
Let's go out in a full-fledged approach, and let's see if after taking the demo class they call us back and ask us further more questions, or if they are willing to pay.
Hmm.
So we did around 10 of such demo class,
Hmm.
and out of 10, more than 5, I don't remember the exact number, those people, two of them reached out to us themselves, and
Hmm.
all these 10 were folks which we did not know personally.
Okay.
Right, so two of them reached out themselves, and we reached out to rest 8, and out of those 8, 4 agreed to pay. I mean, that was the first trigger, that they wanted to pay something.
Correct.
Then the next step was how much they are willing to pay.
Hmm.
Right, and after all that, once we realized okay, they're ready to pay, and they're ready to pay this much amount which can make a meaningful business, then we thought okay, let's widen the scope of our experiment. We did
Okay.
not take money from all those guys because we anyways did not have a product ready apart from the demo class. But
Hmm.
we widened the product. We did some digital marketing experiments, you know, rolled out the message on social media to a larger group. And once we realized that there is significant interest coming, then we started building the product. And we thought,
So,
okay, let's try to do first 10 classes. Yeah, so
hmm.
this is how it evolved.
Okay, so the idea behind going for a research and making like getting the people's response. I see you said 10 demo classes out of 10, 4 people wanted to pay. So it is almost 40% of the conversion of your idea that people are willing to go ahead with the idea. So is it something that is currently the same ratio is going on when it comes to, because it's a question for a founder. Let's say they have researched and surveyed for something and they get a certain scale of like 30%, 40%. Is this something is going to be continued, you think, like whatever the process we have designed, or is something going to be downwards or upwards? How that ratio is fluctuating
No,
now?
so to be honest, as you scale things, there are certain KPIs that will improve.
Hmm.
So tell you, our margins are like kind of 4x, or not even 4x. I mean, if you look at US, our
Hmm.
margins are like 10x of what used to be, right?
Okay.
When we had
Okay.
started.
Hmm.
Right? But at the same time, the conversion has decreased slightly.
Okay.
Right. So as you scale, there are a lot of things that you learn, and there are a lot of things that you'll unlearn as well. And there will be a lot of you'll need to be very dynamic in nature. You'll need to adjust for okay.
Hmm.
I tell you one of the very basic things. So what we had assumed, that once you have booked a session with us,
Hmm.
you will anyways come for taking the trial class because that's free of cost,
Okay.
right? So out of 10 people who booked the session, we never factored in that there will be a significant chunk of people who
Hmm.
will not come for the class,
Okay.
right? Because you yourself have fixed a demo class and it's free of cost. But today, what happens is that out of 100 people, even getting half of them to do a demo class is a
Hmm.
big problem,
Okay.
right? Because there are so many demo classes happening around.
Correct.
right? It's not something which is which the kid has not been exposed to. Now parents are used to so many demo class, so it doesn't
Correct.
excite them as much anymore.
Correct.
So there are, and but at the same time, like I said, our margins has significantly improved. We have also understand the pricing dynamics of various
Hmm.
markets.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of there's a lot of goodness which has which has been built in over a longer period of time. But like I said, some things will improve, some things will go down. At the end of the day, it has to be balanced
Correct.
between
Correct.
various things which ensure that
I'm very keen to understand Indian and other countries' dynamics in terms of accepting any such product, like any educational product for especially for the kids. How do you see that? Like how we get a difference between?
okay, I see the attitude towards educational products is more or less the similar,
Okay.
right?
तो
At
आपको
least
लगता है कि इंडिया में ऐसा है कि पहले हमारे यहाँ के माता पिता कहते हैं कि ओके मेरा बच्चा अंग्रेजी मीडियम स्कूल में जाएगा तो इज इट समथिंग दैट वी फील कि हाँ फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी के मामले में भी ऐसा कुछ है जो एक स्कोप दिख रहा है इंडिया में आज है या आगे भी होगा इज इट समथिंग दैट यू फील
no, absolutely. I mean, if you talk about financial literacy scope in India, probably India will be the global leader in accepting financial literacy. I feel there's a lot of activity going around.
हम्म
At that very top level, the
हम्म
RBI is doing something to introduce financial literacy in schools. Recently,
हम्म
the member of parliament,
करेक्ट
he mentioned the importance of financial literacy. Since we are a company that keeps on tracking all these things, there are a few things which keep on happening. So in US, every state has its own mechanism to deal with
हम्म
education. So a state keeps on coming with various things. There are few activities that keep on happening here and there, but the most amount of activity that I see on financial literacy is right now happening in India.
Hmm. How much time do you see that India, or probably specifically if I talk about Indian market, is going to absorb and accept these kind of platforms to in a full-fledged way that okay, fine, or they'll be more dependent on college or school curriculums. How do you feel that? How much time is there to yeah, accept it?
So what I'm seeing is that in some of the global markets, what we see is that homeschooling has become a very prominent thing,
Okay,
right? And when it comes to homeschooling, parents are very particular around what kind of skills they want to impart to their kids,
okay, okay,
right? And what we feel that parents are already sold on the fact that things like financial literacy are much more important in the child's development when it comes to a lot of other things which are taught in school.
correct,
Right? I
correct,
don't want to mention a certain skill, but you'll also understand that out of 10 things that you were taught in school, probably if financial literacy was one of those things, you could have benefited much more.
hmm,
So
okay,
when it and once the parent, I'm not sure how long will it take for India to adopt homeschooling in a big way, but a lot of countries, especially I see Indonesia, homeschooling has picked up really well.
okay,
So first of all, once that starts happening in India, these platforms will kind of pick up in a very big way,
hmm,
because that's where you can expect a lot of quality inputs to be coming in, and there's a lot of background work which these platforms have already done. So one is that. Secondly, as what happens is that as there's a larger ecosystem which gets built around financial literacy or coding, then and let's say it gets included in the curriculum itself, uh, and these are the skills which require a lot of technical expertise,
hmm, hmm,
right? I mean, a teacher who is used to teaching math and science in schools might not be able to do justice with sophisticated topic as financial literacy.
correct,
He or she can impart the theoretical skills, but practical skills have to be imparted by someone who is an expert in that particular field.
hmm,
And these particular platforms solve a lot of problem on the supply side,
hmm,
because that's what their expertise are. Hiring of trained educators, training them
hmm.
on how to deal with the kids. So there's a lot of problems supply side these platforms are catering to. I believe in future, since these platforms are superior on the supply side, there's a lot of adoption that we'll see going forward.
Hmm.
And parents, and I am seeing a lot of parents adopting these platforms even now, but
Hmm.
this will go further, especially in tier 3 and tier 4 towns.
I wanted to ask you, what is the one convincing point do you see for these kind of products, or financial products? Let's say, अभी स्कूल में पढ़ाया जाता है कि you do for IIT and IIM, you have this scope, इतना पैसा बनेगा, ये नौकरी लगेगी. For promoting these kind of courses or curriculums, what is that unique selling approach, और let's say वो क्या चीज है जिसकी वजह से हम Indians को बता सकते हैं that this is something probably which can make your kid aware about money? Do you think?
So what
Because
I see,
what I feel, just to clarify, what I feel ki India is very approach driven, and they have no, they have something. अच्छा इसको करने से ये मिलेगा. Then only parents are understanding. Okay, go for this. Security, a kind of security. But then we are into a segment जहाँ पे we are not assured of any returns or probably something like that. But that's a literacy. So how we are going to make an impact of Indian parents to understand this kind of product or this
no,
kind of
I
curriculum?
understand your question, and this is something which we have been asked by almost every investor, and this is something which we think, which we think very prominently about. There are a lot of time which goes in, strategizing around this particular thing, especially in India, because, like you said, parents want to have a very tangible kind of an outcome,
Correct.
right? So what happens there? There are two steps to it. One is the next generation of parents is slightly lesser outcome driven.
Okay.
Right? Because let's talk about financial literacy. Now, like I said, previous generation never faced this challenge. They never had the disposable income to kind of invest this in meaningful instruments.
Correct.
Right? Even the number of meaningful instruments in India was kind of very limited.
Correct.
But the current generation of parents, they are able to relate to the problem much more.
Right.
Because they themselves face the problem. So that is one. Secondly, there has to be ecosystem around it. And what I am seeing is the ecosystem is developing. Like in a lot of schools, financial literacy, and we have done workshops with close to 100 schools in India. In a lot of schools, we are seeing why financial literacy is not a compulsory topic, but it is anyways included as a co-scholastic subject, which means that this is one of the optional subjects that the kids can choose from. So RBI has released a notification that by 2024 financial year, the financial literacy has to be included in all the schools in certain ways.
Okay.
And similarly, like I said, there is activity going on in the parliament. So there are a lot of things happening which will eventually create a larger ecosystem around financial literacy. And once it becomes part of the curriculum, then looking at just purely from out, and if it becomes part of the curriculum, then one of the outcomes can be that I want my child to score better marks in this particular subject.
Correct.
Right? If you look at it from a very narrow point of view, but what I see is that we never promise that after doing our course your child will become an investment banker. That's not the right thing to do, right? And we want to be honest with the parents. We want them to understand there is an attitude with the child would be building, which will give you the results over a longer period of time. And one of my pitches is that imagine if there is single financial mistake which you might have made in your life, and which after going through the course child will not make. Right? Think of the returns that you will have many times over.
Correct.
Right? Your father must be thinking, "Yeah, I would have bought a land there. I would have done something like this. I would have bought this share."
Correct.
So that is how it works. I mean, we don't want to promise them that your child will become this, or your child will become a unicorn entrepreneur after doing the program, because that's not going to happen.
But then this is very serious. Like, after a period of time, it's very necessary that you are earning good amount. But then, एक बार time चला गया and you were not aware about how to save and how to invest. Probably that's a very serious problem, because you can earn a lot of money even after 40 years, but you cannot be a good investor after 40.
So what I was saying is that there are two parts to it. One is understanding what are the various financial instruments, and how does compounding work, or how do you really make money out of money, right? And second is developing a particular attitude for the child. I feel even if you can learn the theoretical aspects, right, later in your life, what's very difficult is to help you develop that particular attitude towards money, right? I'll give an example. There was a cousin of mine who makes serious amount of money, but unfortunately he could never develop the attitude to kind of invest that money in the right instruments. He's extremely skeptical about, and what I mean by developing the attitude, just you would have seen a lot of people not being very bothered about their taxes.
Correct.
Like the company would be deducting something, they do not really go deep into where all they can save their taxes,
Correct.
because they feel it's a heavy cognitive load, like doing all these things. Similarly, a lot of people not bothering about, if you have your money in the saving bank account, what is the kind of interest that you are earning, then what is the taxes which are going on, what you can do with this particular money if you have in some other instruments. Even if you tell them, right, even if they are convinced that they are not doing the right thing, they will not do it because they do not have the attitude, they have not been wired to think from that perspective.
Correct.
Either that comes itself, or it has to be taught from a very early age. If you have to ensure that.
I really understand that the kind of attitude you are talking about, because it's a automatic gesture. People know कि अच्छा ठीक है ये काम करना है, and they are aware about this is being done by other member of society. But now when it comes to investing, they probably try to keep it in a saving account rather than investing, because that attitude is missing. We can just
I tell you, so there's another friend of mine. He's a government servant in Mumbai, and for last 3-4 years he has been asking me for advice on various instruments. I have at least told him 10 times, you can invest here. You can. He has never invested anywhere.
Okay.
Like, because that is not a priority. I mean, you are just asking for the sake of it because during COVID, when market,
I got it.
a lot of people made money, but that is not a priority. And when you have the right attitude, that becomes a priority for you.
Now we are switching to this conversation into a different part. We are towards ending this conversation. So मेरा ये question है for all people who are just willing to start a startup. How to start a startup? Like basic 3 points that you can just guide us through. कि how to start a startup? What are the 3 points that we have to make sure before starting up or while starting?
Right. So I have my own views on this. So I feel, first of all, you should not. There can be different frameworks, right? One is either you feel that you are extremely entrepreneurial in nature, you cannot really work anywhere else. You feel that you are very outgoing. You have an attitude. You have problem-solving attitude. You kind of relish among ambiguities, right? If you feel that you have all those things in place, and some of it was with me, right? I was very active in my undergrad. A lot of these things which I feel which should take in with an entrepreneur. I think looking back, I had all these qualities, and what I have seen, a lot of people who had these qualities are kind of, a lot of them have taken up entrepreneurship and they are doing well. So first is that particular thing. If you feel that you and which essentially means that you are entrepreneurial in nature, you can look out for problems, because India is a land of problems.
Correct.
And even if you're not in India, globally as well, problems exist everywhere. So you can be on the lookout for problems, and then look for problems that really excite you, right? So that can be one approach. Second is, even if you are not very entrepreneurial, but you have come across a problem that is kind of exciting enough for you, and you are able to relate to the problem, then also you can really start off with your entrepreneur journey. Third thing, I feel that everyone should probably spend some time working for a high growth startup.
Okay.
If you want an entrepreneur, an organized approach can be you work for a high growth startup.
Okay.
Right? Especially a startup which has got decent monetary power, which essentially means it's funded, because with a funded startup, you get to experiment a lot.
Okay.
Right? And I believe you learn only when you do experiments. Right? If it's a bootstrap startup, there is very little opportunity to experiment and then to learn. So work with a funded startup with which you can learn and you can understand a lot of dynamics. Having said that, I'll strictly, because a lot of people feel that there is a lot of glamour in doing a startup, which has faded away now to an extent. At least I would believe so. But this was kind of huge around 2014-15. Everyone just wanted to write a co-founder tag along their LinkedIn side. So just don't do for the sake of it, because later on you realize that while it sounds glamorous from outside, it's a very difficult job as an entrepreneur.
Correct.
right? So
As you just mentioned a point, I wanted to ask here itself. Do you have any idea what is different between startup and business? Are these the two terms are same? Doing though, because people in
no,
India now, I've seen youngsters are willing to do a business and they are looking out for monetary approach to go for a startup, but then they call it as startup. How do you see that
no,
difference between
that's
startup
not
and business?
that's not the same. I would say having a kirana shop is not a startup.
Hmm.
In my view, a startup is something which can scale. In most of the cases, you can scale using technology.
Hmm.
You cannot scale exponentially without technology. So
Correct.
that is why I feel, first of all, startup is something which either the tech is a startup, tech is an enabler, or at least tech is the backbone of that particular startup, or it
Hmm.
is a tech startup out and out, which can be a very deep tech
Hmm.
startup. But otherwise, if the tech doesn't have any role to play, in
Hmm.
most of the such cases, you will not be able to scale very fast. And if
Okay.
you're not scaling very fast, then it becomes a lifestyle business. So a lifestyle business, I would refrain away from calling a lifestyle business a startup. I
Hmm.
don't think it works. You are probably fooling yourself by saying
Correct.
that. It essentially
Correct.
means it is not going to scale very fast, and
Hmm.
you will have to stick with it for a long time, which is not a bad approach. You want to be a businessman, which is not a bad approach, but that's not something I would like to do. So yeah.
Okay. 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 The next very important and painful question comes out to be like it is definitely going to be solved with your approach. The most important thing, I have an idea, but I do not have co-founder. Or let's say how to find a co-founder and what are the points that you see is something that eventually match up.
Well, I mean, see, I personally believe that having a co-founder is important,
Hmm.
unless and until you have a magnetism associated with you, like Vijay Shekhar Sharma or Kunal Shah, right?
Correct.
I
Understood.
personally feel having a co-founder is important, but at the same time, especially when you are kind of, as you, if so, people who are just fresh out of college,
Hmm.
or who happened to find a co-founder during the previous working stints.
Hmm.
At times, finding a co-founder can be difficult as well, but at the end of the day, it's all serendipity. Either you were very close friends with with some individual in college, or you were
Hmm.
working very closely with someone in your previous company.
Hmm.
It's not very easy to find a co-founder as well. So let's say if you want to start off, and you do not have a co-founder, then
Correct.
I think in that case you should not go looking out for a co-founder first, because as you mature, uh, what happens is that when you're fresh out of college, the co-founder would buy into everything and anything,
Okay.
right? He would be like, "यार बस startup करना है, कुछ भी करते हैं,"
Hmm.
right? But as you mature, the co-founders that you're looking for, they'll also analyze the problem from various statements,
Hmm.
and,
Got it.
and they will also have their own responsibilities. They'll weigh in all those factors. So I feel that as you are maturing, you should, if you do not have co-founder immediately available who is looking to join you, maybe motivate someone to join you part time,
Hmm.
right? And that happened with Education Tennis. One of our core team members did work with us part time,
Hmm.
right? And later on, he joined us full time. So that can be one approach. Otherwise, I feel while you should be always on lookout for a co-founder,
Hmm.
it should not be the only thing that you should be focused on.
Hmm.
But it's very important to be a co-founder.
Hmm. Okay. We are moving towards another question, which is very important to understand. How do you see, founders as a founder, or let's say startup journey? What are the challenges that you can just share with us? That is major challenges that you focus, or probably do you face, and how probably we can deal with this throughout your journey about from two ventures, your
Right. So
experiences.
okay, so that's a very important question. I would say that, um, for a founder, first of all, there are challenges at every step,
Hmm.
and I think the magnanimity of the challenge changes, but with for with a startup, with every individual there are challenges. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
everyone who is in a different role, they'll have
Hmm.
their own set of challenges.
Hmm.
For a founder, you know there so when you are in 0 to 1 stage, right, and
Okay.
you act more as a product manager.
Okay.
right? You have not raised your funds yet. You are only looking to solve a particular problem, is finding out the right product market fit,
Okay.
right? As you go from 1 to 10, your role changes, and your role is more about getting the earlier adoption for that particular product,
Hmm.
right? So then there are different set of challenges, right? And as you go from, let's say, 10 to 100, and that's where I believe the true character of a founder comes in, because between 10 to 100, the startup starts getting more and more decentralized.
Okay.
Like from 0 to 1, you had a complete control on the product. From
Hmm.
1 to 10, you still had a decent control on the various processes, and you had an influence on all the processes.
Hmm.
Now from 10 to 100 is when, so imagine, imagine this in the context of education 10x. So 0 to 1, we were building the product. 1 to 10, I was the one selling the product,
Hmm.
right? Now
You
from
sold the
10 to 100,
product?
yeah, I mean, obviously, initially selling has to be done from the founder
Okay.
himself.
Okay.
I was the one doing the selling primarily.
Hmm.
So 1 to 10, I sold the product. Now from 10 to 100 is the team which will be selling the product.
Hmm.
So things will get decentralized a bit
Hmm.
more. So what you need to do is to, and from 10 to 100, your primary role becomes strategizing and hiring. What kind of people you are able to hire.
Hmm.
Similarly, from 1 to 10, when you are hiring between 1 to 10 and 0 to 1 as well, though at a lower
Hmm.
scale.
Hmm.
But that hiring might also be happening from immediate area of influence,
Correct.
right? From your close friends and families,
Hmm.
from people you
Hmm.
worked in the past. Now, from 10 to 100, you're hiring not from known circles, right?
Correct.
Then it becomes very difficult how to finding out the right fit, getting those people aligned with your vision,
Correct.
right? And ensuring that everyone out there is also motivated, because not everyone will have direct access to you. So if
Hmm.
there is someone down the line who is talking to his manager, that
Hmm.
particular person has to feel motivated enough to
Hmm.
kind of keep pushing the boundaries.
Hmm.
So the challenges kind of changes at almost every step.
Part of
But
it.
yeah, but what I can tell you is that a true entrepreneur would relish in all these challenges. At the same
Hmm.
time, the challenges are going to be bigger and bigger.
And
Right?
probably they'll figure out at every stage.
They'll figure out, but there's a common misconception that once you have raised your funds, once you are done with the fundraising, the challenge is going to get over. But
But
it doesn't
then,
happen that way.
but I think this is definitely going to double, because before that you were managing your money and your startup. Now it is something that you are managing with your
No, no,
investors as well.
absolutely. There are a whole lot of different kind of challenges which come up once you
Hmm.
have reached once you have reached a certain scale.
Hmm.
So, but that's a different kind of experience altogether.
Okay. Great.